Obviously, we spend a lot of time here on Newstalk 1010 chatting about where we are in Toronto, and you're always thinking about the city that you're in. Now, this show does go across the country, and I had the idea about getting someone from a smaller community on to talk about how coronavirus is being perceived. Well, this gentleman reached out to me. I reached back. His name is Marc Laferriere. He is an elected municipal councillor in the county of Brant in Ontario. Marc, welcome to The Late Shift.
Thanks for having me, Jason. Great new show.
Thank you very much for listening and tuning in and joining us here tonight. And as I mentioned, the reason why I wanted to have you on is you're in the county of Brant. How many people does that encompass, and what's the county like? Is it kind of spread out?
Yeah, so the county is actually spread out. We neighbor 8 different municipalities, including the city of Brantford, which is a larger urban center, and we're a mix of small urban and rural in our municipality, and we are spread out. We are actually about the same size as the city of Brantford, but spread out as a donut around it, with about 36,000 folks. And again, it's that mix. And most people know Paris, Burford, St. George, those kind of areas. And it's a very different scenario and setup, and we're differently resourced than large urban centers like Toronto.
So when the coronavirus started, when the domino effect happened, on that Tuesday, when Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson revealed that they had it, the world took notice. And everything started getting canceled. And now the restrictions, of course, been put in place in Toronto and all across Ontario. But what was the perception in a smaller community of this? Were you guys immediately on high alert, or was it more so, that's for the city people?
Well, there's always that potential for that attitude in smaller urban and rural centers. But, I'll be really frank, we were well ahead of the curve, when it comes to declaring a state of emergency. We were one of the first communities in Ontario to do so. I know I sit on our library board, and I'm the chair of our paramedic services committee, and we were taking it seriously immediately. We were one of the first libraries to close, and we closed immediately. We had some debate about whether we should wait a couple days. But no, we hit this really hard. We knew what the potential was, and we knew what we could see the writing on the wall by looking at other areas across the world. So in some ways, we were able to be nimble because we're smaller. But again, we're less resourced than places like Toronto, and we don't have our own central hospital. We share one with another municipality, and so regionally, it was interesting because you'd have our library system closed on Friday, but our neighbors, they closed on. Some of them on Monday, some of them on Tuesday, some of them on Wednesday, later the next week. And that's confusing for folks because they see, these other larger municipalities not doing some of the same things and doing other things. And now we're as a province, I think we're in pretty much in lockstep of where we need to be. So we got there. We all got there eventually, but hopefully it wasn't too late.
Yeah, obviously everything kind of changed today. The state of emergency, all non-essential services closed down. So we're all in the same boat now. We're all in this together, as I use as the catchphrase on the show. Are there challenges though in a smaller community that is more spread out in keeping communication with your population?
Yeah, absolutely. Because we don't have a central media source, right? We actually have a bunch, but they're spread out. We have I think 7 or 8 small newspapers within the region, including a couple of other municipalities share some. We have one television station, a cable station, but it's not news heavy, and we share it with Waterloo. So getting stuff specifically out to our community. Here's an example. We have over 5 or 6 library branches. So how do you coordinate messaging to all of those, even though we're a small community, because we're spread out in their small libraries, right? As one example, we have different municipal buildings that are spread out in different towns. And those sort of things, we have to work really well. We're lucky. We have some really amazing staff. We've been poaching staff for decades from larger centers who want to come work at the cottage, so to speak, instead of in the city.
Yep.
And so we are punching above our weight in our community. But again, we're pretty well resourced in an area with a lot of other urban centers like Waterloo, Hamilton, Toronto. So we're able to sort of pick and choose what's to piggyback on other communication channels. Now that's not going to happen in some town that's 200 kilometers away from Thunder Bay, right? So it becomes really, really difficult when you're looking at these small urban rural municipalities and what they're going to do. And a lot of them, to be frank, didn't take it as seriously as they should have early enough.
Yeah, and I always think about when you do have a community that's a little bit more spread out and you have people that are more so in need and lose their social circle. And seniors have actually been targeted recently in the media of not paying attention to regulations. How have you made your seniors pay attention, or have you, for that matter? Have you seen a problem?
I personally seen a problem. I've gone to the local farmers market. And, it's not the businesses. We have a farm here who they went from saying, okay, 10 people can be in the farm, the market portion, then said, you know what, maybe 5. Now they're saying 3. And I was there with me and 2 other people, and the 2 other older folks, they got up right in line behind me. I had to ask them to step back.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's only 3 of us in there, and they didn't need to be that close. And I wasn't worried about me. I'm worried about them, right? But they weren't as worried about them as they could have been, and that's really difficult to wrap your head around. But, it's also sort of a way of life for folks. People want to be friendly, and they want to be helpful, but this is, the social, it's almost we talk about social isolation, and social distancing, but it's a bit of a social disease when people are so used to being able to be, friendly and shake your hand and hug, and we can't do that right now. And it's hard to tell folks that, especially folks who think this might be a little far-fetched or whatever you might have. Now that same farmers market, they've moved to delivery only because they've seen the issue.
Yeah.
Right? So we have some very responsive chain farmers, grocery stores, and the rest of it, but it's difficult, and you don't want to be nagging at folks, but you kind of need to, especially at this point. I have kids. Every time we go out for a walk, somebody gets too close, and I'm saying, okay, well, I guess we can't go out for walks anymore.
Oh man, that is tough, and you have they're little kids too, right? Like they need to be outside at some point. Yeah, 2 and 4. Wow. We're chatting with Marc Laferriere. He is an elected municipal councillor in the county of Brant in Ontario. As we were saying, a bit more of a spread out small town near some larger communities. So, Marc, in order to keep the social distancing and the some isolation happening if people have traveled, etc., what have you put in place in your county? What type of services are you guys offering now as aid to the coronavirus?
Yeah, so we've been doing a number of things. One of the things I pushed for was immediately making sure that folks, when we close down all of our buildings to the public and all of our non-essential services to the public, that things like folks are, especially seniors who they haven't moved to the debit transactions for the automatic banking for their taxes. We've said let's make sure that the fees for that the penalties for that are taken off the books indefinitely. We'll reassess the time to do that. People shouldn't be dinged financially, but folks will be because of the nature of I have friends who've been laid off today. Mm-hmm. So that's something that we've instituted. We've also been trying to help our paramedics get needed personal protection equipment, gloves, masks, things of that nature. We have a new transit system, but our public transit system isn't buses, so we've been operating on a must only. We have a sort of like a dial-a-bus system. So we've been doing that, making sure that it's only for needed transportation. We've been working with our local food banks, and we've been starting to recruit volunteers that we can prepare to help folks who are shut in, and things like our Meals on Wheels program. So, there's been a lot of kindness. One of the things I've noticed, though, here that's been incredible has been the way that my community specifically, and I'm sure other communities are doing the same, the way we've come together even though we have to be apart.
Right.
Whether it's chalking on the sidewalks, community happy hours where people stay on their porches and play music, but people walk by, putting things out in windows for kids to see, scavenger hunts, but again with the social distance implied. That's been great, and the food drives, people getting offering to bring meals and groceries to people who can't get out right now. That's been really good, especially since we've had some confirmed cases in our community. I think we're at 3 right now as we're speaking.
Oh, all right. Well, Marc, listen, I know it's a tough time, but sounds like you're doing a great job there. I wish you all the best, and stay inside, and good luck with the 2-year-old and a 4-year-old.
Yeah, well, we have a great mayor, great council, and great staff, and we're all working in a great community. So thanks so much for having me, Jason, and good luck to everybody out there listening.